Welcome back to American History Live's 250th birthday celebration. I am Benjamin Franklin here.
Hello, everyone. I am Alexander Hamilton. We are sharing American patriots' own thoughts. Last week, we discussed George Washington's farewell address to the nation.
Hello, I am Abigail Adams. Today we will discuss my husband John Adams' second cousin, Samuel Adams, and excerpts from his The Rights of Colonists.
Samuel Adams was a key figure in America declaring independence. His writings convinced many that independence from Great Britain was not only an option, but the logical step for the American colonies.
Samuel Adams was born September 27th, 1772, in Boston, Massachusetts. He attended Harvard University and believed fervently in the thoughts of John Locke, an Enlightenment English philosopher. Locke contended that individuals were born with natural rights, not given by the government. The foundation of Samuel Adams, the Rights of Colonists.
Samuel Adams was an avid writer in newspapers, pamphlets, and letters. An early revolutionary, he worked hard to end the Sugar Act of 1764. He was a member of the Massachusetts House of Representatives and a founding member of the Sons of Liberty.
And in 1772, most colonists could not conceive the idea of independence, despite the frustration with the increasing taxes and the direct influence of the British government. Samuel Adams so then wrote The Rights of Colonists to directly address what he saw as the British government's infringement of colonists' natural rights.
Samuel Adams begins The Rights of Colonists. Among the natural rights of the colonists are these. First, a right to live. Secondly, to liberty. Thirdly, to property, together with the right to support and defend them in the best manner that they can.
So, natural rights are a concept developed by John Locke. The fact that rights are not given to you by the government, but they are something that are achieved right at your birth. Locke believed that these rights are life, liberty, and property.
But notice that Samuel Adams expands the idea to the belief that individuals have the right to support and defend those rights.
So thereby, all men have a right to remain in a state of nature as long as they please, and in the case of intolerable oppression, to leave the society they belong to and to enter another.
So, 4 years before the Declaration of Independence, Samuel Adams was laying the foundation of the reasons why the colonies would declare their independence in the first place.
Yes. When men enter into society,
Oh,
it is by voluntary consent. Every natural right is not expressly given up. All positive and civil laws should conform.
this idea would be seen by many as revolutionary. The idea that individuals voluntarily enter society, that they don't give up their rights to be a part of society, and that government cannot take away those natural rights to life, liberty, and property.
The Rights of Colonists continues. By entering into society, he agrees to an arbiter or an indifferent judge between him and his neighbor.
Samuel Adams is not advocating for anarchy now, just a fair and impartial government. He even knows that the government itself will need funding.
Samuel Adams continues. He must pay the referees for time and trouble. He should also be willing to pay his just quota for the government.
The revolution did not occur because the colonists had to pay taxes. It was how those taxes were assessed and created.
Samuel Adams continues, a private man has a right to say what wages he will give in his private affairs. So has a community to determine what they will give in grant of their substance for the administration of public affairs. And in both cases, more and ready to offer their service at the proposed and stipulated price than are able and willing to perform their duty.
So, Samuel Adams is looking at two major issues that American colonists had with British policy in the 1770s. One was the restrictions on trade imposed by the British, and the policies that made it difficult to trade with any nation other than Great Britain and its other colonies.
Number two, taxation without representation. Colonies had no representation in Parliament.
Later in the Rights of Colonists, all persons born in the British American colonies are entitled to all the natural, essential, inherent, and inseparable rights, liberties, and privileges of subjects born in Great Britain or within the realm.
Just because we lived in Massachusetts or Virginia does not mean that we were not British citizens entitled to all of the rights of other British citizens,
including the supreme power cannot justly take from any man any part of his property without his consent in person or by his representative.
No taxation without representation. The American colonies deserved representation in Parliament and their local legislatures because they were British citizens. You may ask about the fact that colonists may be from other nations.
Samuel Adams addresses this. The statute of the 13th of Geo 2 C.7 naturalizes even foreigners after 7 years of residence.
So, those living in the colonies for at least 7 years were British citizens.
This is not just a matter of taxes. Samuel Adams brings up multiple times government from the very nature of the institution is for the support, protection, and defense of those very rights, the principles of which, as is observed, are life, liberty, and property.
The government needs to protect the rights of all its citizens.
The conclusion of Samuel Adams' argument is, can it be said with any color of truth and justice that this continent of 3,000 miles in length and of a breadth as yet unexplored, in which, however it is supposed, there are 5 millions of people, that has the least voice, vote, or influence in the British Parliament? The inhabitants of this country, in all probability, in a few years, will be more numerous than those of Great Britain and Ireland together. Yet it is absurdly expected by the promoters of the present measures that these, with their posterity to all generations, should be easy, while their property shall be disposed of by the House of Commons at 3,000 miles distance from them? and who cannot be supposed to have the least care or concern for their real interests, who have not only no natural care for their interest, but must be in effect bribed against it, as if every burden they lay on the colonists is so much saved or gained to themselves. Here too, many of the colonists have been freed from quit rents, but the breadth of the British House of Commons can originate an act for taking away all of our money. Our land will go next or be the subject to rack rents from haughty and relentless landlords who will ride at ease while we trodden in the dirt. The colonists have been branded with the odious names of traitor and rebels only for complaining of their grievances. How long should such treatment or ought to be borne is submitted?
Samuel Adams is laying the foundation of American discontent. As a voice of the colonists, Mr. Franklin added his thoughts in a preface to the English edition of the Rights of Colonists.
My focus was on specific acts of Parliament Samuel Adams was alluding to. This nation, being Great Britain, and the other nations of Europe, may thereby learn with more certainty the grounds of dissension that possibly may, sooner or later, have consequences interesting them all. The colonies had, from their first settlement, been governed with more ease than perhaps can be equaled in history of dominions.
The American colonies were almost entirely ignored until the French and Indian War. This, of course, fostered an independent spirit.
The Stamp Act first disturbed this happy situation. The subsequent acts of another administration brought the exclusion of foreign manufacturers, heavy import duties. All were accordingly repealed, but one, the duty on tea. And why was that? The right of Parliament to do it without the consent of the colonies.
The British government was saying to the American colonists that we were not true British citizens because we had no representation in that British Parliament.
And when the colonists complained, the British government rejected and treated with contempt. So the colonists then stopped buying tea, resulting in only £85 collected in taxes and the tea rotting in warehouses. I was trying to warn the Parliament at the time that Samuel Adams did have good points, but the Rights of Colonists that he wrote and my own preface were ignored.
In 1773, the Sons of Liberty, of which Samuel Adams was a founding member, conducted the Boston Tea Party. Great Britain had its eye on Samuel Adams, and his home was attacked during the Battle of Lexington in 1775.
But that did not stop Samuel Adams. He attended the Second Continental Congress and signed the Declaration of Independence. He helped create the first United American government, the Articles of Confederation. He continued to serve the state of Massachusetts for the remainder of his life, including advocating for public education for both boys and girls.
Samuel Adams believed that political figures should work for the public good and not for their own self-interest.
We encourage you to learn more about Samuel Adams and America's other founders.
We hope everyone can join us next week as we look at Thomas Paine's Common Sense. Thank you for joining us.